These smart glasses look and feel like regular glasses, and unlike some other smart glasses, I've been able to wear these all day with ease. They also have some pretty neat tricks. I left a listening feature running for most of a day, and when I checked the app later, I had transcripts of the conversation it captured, AI summaries, and even a mind map. It was actually pretty cool. But of course, it also raises some obvious privacy questions, which I'll get into shortly. These are the RayNeo AI smart glasses with no cameras or speakers, but with a monochromatic heads-up display used for notifications, reminders, AI assistance, translation, and more. So think along the lines of even Reality's G2, not so much Meta Ray-Ban display. Quick disclosure, RayNeo provided these glasses for me to review. They did not pay me, and they have no approval or input over what I say in this video. Let's start with looks, weight, and comfort. I'll keep it short and simple. All three are excellent. RayNeo lists these at 34 grams, and I wore them all day without a second thought. When you turn them on, you get a bright green dashboard with things like your schedule, to-dos, and weather, and I've even connected my Gmail account. The dashboard concept is similar to Even and different from something like the Mira glasses, where I missed having a productivity-focused landing page. You get a fair bit of control over where the display sits in terms of height and depth, and I also liked the two perceived display depths. So, for example, the dashboard sits at one distance and the AI at another. You can bring up the display by looking up, and RayNeo also includes head controls, including a nod to accept and a head shake to decline. RayNeo claims 1200 nits, and I could see the display quite comfortably outdoors. Light bleed is similar to what I've come to expect with these type of glasses, and the closest analogy is the Even G2. Straight on, the display is invisible, but from a lower angle, you can get that telltale flash of green. The main physical control is the crown on the side. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it, but it turned out to be pretty intuitive. You can scroll, click, double click, long press, etc. So it is in fact quite similar to using a ring. Speaking of which, it would have been nice to have a ring controller to avoid constantly reaching for my face, but unfortunately these currently do not come with a ring. The good news is that voice controls can control the glasses quite well. Hey RayNeo, increase brightness to 100%. So you can use that for things like brightness, reminders, and other basic controls rather than having to use the crown constantly. Next, live captions as a straight transcription tool is excellent. The text appears quickly, accuracy seems on point, and it even gets the punctuation right, unlike some other glasses. Translation, however, was slower. To be fair, it seems reasonably accurate, but there can be a noticeable pause before the translation actually shows up as a large chunk of translated text, as opposed to trying to keep pace with the speaker. You can initiate translation through voice commands, but just like with other glasses, you need to set the from and to languages for the translation in the app beforehand. By the way, I am covering live captions and translation together because that is in fact how RayNeo has packaged this in the glasses as part of the same live captions feature. The teleprompter implementation on these glasses is particularly strong. You get smart follow, fixed speed scrolling, and manual control with a lot of flexibility in setting up text position, size, and speed. The setting that I use most often is smart follow, and that worked impressively well. Say goodbye to the mechanical scrolling of traditional teleprompters. Flexible manual control, perfect for improvising. Reading scripts through your glasses demands a flawless visual. I could stop in the middle of a script and it would wait, start again and it would continue, or jump ahead and it picked up at the right spot. Then there's LifeLog, probably the most unique feature on the I/O. I ran it all day a few times, and the specifics of the implementation were interesting. The app broke each day into sessions with transcripts and AI summaries, and then created a daily summary that pulled everything together. One session even generated a mind map. The daily summary went beyond simply repeating back what happened and made some interesting observations of its own. On one of my daily recaps, it gave the day a creative title, plotted out where I had physically been, and then told me that I had stayed composed throughout the day, but was primarily focused on family and hadn't made any room for my own work. Which was actually all true, but not something I was expecting my glasses to tell me. Additionally, it can make proactive suggestions as it hears things happening. For example, I made a dinner reservation while LifeLog was running. A few minutes later, it offered to add a reminder, and it had pulled out the restaurant, date, time, party size, the split between adults and kids, and even the fact that it was a birthday. So, this was quite useful and frankly impressive. But information retrieval was where things felt a little shaky and half-baked. I deliberately mentioned 4 small details during the day and later asked the normal RayNeo AI about them. It could not correctly retrieve any of the 4. So I tried again, specifically from the memory section of the app, and even selected LifeLog as the search source. I had manually found one of my test details in the LifeLog itself, so I knew it had actually been captured. Unfortunately, the results were still inconsistent. On one search, even with LifeLog selected, every reference it returned was from my to-do list. I retested on a newer software update just before recording. With LifeLog specifically selected, it did correctly retrieve one of the details that I needed to pick up a USB-C adapter. But the same question failed when I searched everything instead of just LifeLog, and several of the other details still couldn't be found at all. So it's improving, but retrieval still feels beta. And to be fair, much of this experience is actually labeled beta. Now, as I said up front, LifeLog also raises some privacy questions. RayNeo provides a recording indicator on the glasses. At first, I didn't really know where it was or whether it was even on. So I asked RayNeo AI where it was, and it correctly told me there should be a white light at the temple tip. Point for RayNeo AI. Upon checking, there is indeed a light, and it does stay on when LifeLog is active. But someone standing directly in front of you may have a hard time noticing that light since it sits back behind the ear. Finally, if you do have concerns about using LifeLog to remember things, you can always use the voice memo feature, which allows you to manually record things and retrieve them through the app, and it works quite well. Next up, the general AI features. On paper, and when it's properly implemented, this will be the most extensive menu of AI models you can access through smart glasses that I have seen. There are 2 free options, RayNeo V1 and Gemini 3.1 Flash Lite, and then 6 more models under the paid subscription tier for $9.99 per month. Most of my AI testing was with RayNeo V1, although I also did some spot checks with the other free model. My results were mixed. Can you tell me the main differences between ChatGPT and Claude? Okay, I forgot about Gemini. Can you add that to the mix as well? The AI was solid for location-based questions like weather, as well as normal general knowledge questions. I also liked continuous conversation where I could keep asking follow-ups and change context without repeating the wake phrase. It also controls the glasses well and answers questions about their features quite accurately. Increase brightness to 100%. Where it struggled was current information. I asked it multiple questions about the recent World Cup as well as the results from Wimbledon, and it wasn't able to handle them reliably. There's also an intermittent language bug. Everything is set to English, but I've had RayNeo AI answer in Chinese a few times, including normal conversations and memory searches. Finally, there's also a live cues feature, which is currently labeled beta. It's not the same as Conversate in the Even G2. The basic premise is that it is supposed to listen in on conversations, and when it detects a question, provide you with a suggested answer based on the context. This feature did not really work for me, and I never really got any live queue notifications, so I'll be curious to see how it works once properly implemented. Speaking of notifications, one quick note is that notifications on these glasses have been consistent and very reliable. I was able to use the glasses with all their features consistently all day long and well into the next day without worrying about charging. RayNeo claims up to 48 hours of typical use, and this seems to generally line up with my experience. On the occasions I ran LifeLog all day long, I was still nowhere close to running out of juice by the time I took off the glasses at the end of the day. So, should you buy the RayNeo IO? There's a lot here I like. They're light and comfortable. The dashboard is useful. Live Captions is excellent. The Teleprompter is one of the best I've tested on smart glasses. And LifeLog already does a very good job capturing and summarizing a day. The weaker areas are current information and LifeLog Retrieval. The information is getting captured, but asking the AI to pull a specific detail back out later hasn't been reliable. There are also some obvious beta issues, including live cues and the intermittent Chinese responses. So right now, I do see the RayNeo IO as a real alternative to the Even G2 with a much more ambitious memory layer built on top. However, some of the memory retrieval functionality is still being ironed out as of the beta version I tested, so keep that in mind. Also, one advantage Even still has is its third-party app ecosystem, so RayNeo does have some catching up to do there. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.